Sure. So first of all, I really like what Kathy and Gabe shared there. I think those are extremely key points if we're going to actually get at higher level compliance, right? So I'm going to point out a couple. Well, one on the list and one that conspicuously is not. I don't know if anybody noticed which one got left off the list on purpose because of the way we counted the violations. This list is something that I worked on with folks at the department, and it depends on how you count the violations and what categories you put violations in. So CSAs aren't on this list intentionally. I wanted to see if anyone would notice. I think it's extremely important and a direct indicator of a school's administrative capability in the Clery context to be able to identify its network of mandatory reporters. Now, the effect that it has is that it tends to cause you to have violations in other areas that are on the list, right? It goes to the accuracy and completeness of the school's crime statistics. If incidents that are reported aren't making it into the Clery world for a school, then we won't have timely warnings and emergency notifications. It's not going to get on the log. The Clery geography won't matter very much. But the real problems there are that people who need help, say victims of sexual violence who are reporting crimes covered by the VAWA requirements, which are on the list, or with the obvious dotted line to Title IX or Title VI or hate crimes, all of these people who need help, right? Because we spend all of this time curating this data, the whole use it for good. I have actually been very encouraged by the fact that a lot of student groups who have gotten interested in Clery data on their particular campuses, I can think of 2 or 3 schools where student groups or student journalists have written articles just within the past couple of months saying, okay, now that we have all of this information, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do to actually make the campus safer? What are we going to do to make sure that people who are having mental health crises get assistance? Great that we know the numbers. Now, what are we going to do? And of course, schools should be taking those steps because that too is an indicator of administrative capability. Remembering that administrative capability goes beyond any singular regulatory requirement. It is actually about an environment of compliance, which goes directly to the points that our friends were just making, right? We at CriticalArc have been emphasizing the notion of enterprise risk management. A lot of schools are quite good at engaging in these discrete tasks that have some kind of safety-related purpose, right? They're quite good at various kinds of operational steps. What they're not as good at typically is actually creating a safety environment that works, right? A compliance environment that works. One of the things that I love about the ethics and compliance program at USC is that they have integrated compliance into operations. They don't merely wait for compliance folks on the internal side to come and poke in and take at the Clery office or at any other office on the campus. Instead, they've integrated those functions. That's perhaps the highest level of enterprise risk management and the highest level of administrative capability. Administrative capability is really the requirement that shapes everything under the Title IV regulations. It is the most serious finding that the Department of Ed can make against a school. By definition, if a school is deemed to have administrative impairments of the serious nature that they end up in a report in the first place, it means that that institution lacks the ability or willingness to properly administer the Title IV programs and therefore should not be in them. Now, the department is usually not going to kick an institution out for that reason. It'd be a little odd to say to protect them, including in their role as not only as students, but as consumers and as citizens. We're going to close down their school and make them go someplace else. That wouldn't really make much sense, but it does put a bullseye on the institution and really requires the department to take very demonstrable actions and for the institution to take demonstrable steps toward getting into compliance, sometimes for the first time. The only thing I'll add for now is that this didn't always happen. This was not always the case. The very first case where the Department of Education said that impaired administrative capability applied to the Clery Act was in 2004 in the Salem International University case. It would be a case worth looking at. Up until that time, the standards of administrative capability were mostly thought to apply just to the financial aid programs. And some of the language in there does sort of sound like accountant speak, right? We talk about checks and balances in an environment of internal controls. We talk about fiduciary responsibility. But those fiduciary responsibilities, the requirement to have written policies and procedures, the requirement to be able to produce information to the secretary upon request, are all very basic requirements for the campus crime and campus safety requirements, drug-free schools as well, all the way down to things like FERPA, which impact our work in this space, right? So we need to think of this holistically, not just in these component parts